You're not going to be seeing me like this here on YouTube every week anymore. Today I want to talk about, well, the only thing I can even think of to talk about, which is doing less. And for those of you who don't know, the reason that I say that is because I broke my ankle 3 or 4 weeks ago. I've lost track at this point. Spent the first 2 weeks really bedbound and in incredible pain and just getting around on crutches and my iWalk little peg leg thing, which allows me to go up and down the stairs. We have 2 flights of stairs here and it allows me to hold Chloe, my 1.5-year-old. But it's definitely required me to do less. I haven't posted a video here in 3 or 4 weeks. I've said this in a post here, but I feel like somebody's probably going to ask what happened. I was walking Charlie at 1 o'clock in the morning and she got manic because she's an excited pooper and she went to jump on me and I turned, and then when she jumped on me, it twisted me the rest of the way. So it twisted my ankle and it completely broke it in 3 different areas. They called it a trimalleolar fracture, and it was incredibly painful. My foot was actually sideways and I didn't have my cell phone on me, so I was stranded out in the middle of our parking lot at 1 o'clock in the morning, screaming back at my house. I can't even remember how long before Matt came out and scooped me up and put me in the car. Once I got back home and the pain was under control, I just remember thinking, at least now I can take a break. At least now I don't have to create anything. I don't have to pump out any content. I can just rest. And so I spent the next 3 or 4 weeks, all of this mostly downtime, thinking about doing less and listening to what other people have to say about the subject. And I do feel like compared to where I used to be and compared to probably where most people are, I do have that. Like I do have more space and energy, but there were still like 3 what I feel like are really crucial things that were keeping me from experiencing the relief of just doing less. And so that's what I want to talk about today. 3 things that I really wish that I had internalized and understood long before breaking my ankle and being forced to do nothing. Number 1 is that depth is better than volume. And this one deserves a shout out to Vanessa Lau. She's a content creator and she also reached a point of burnout, which is not really what happened to me, but it's something that I could relate to, and basically burned down her entire 7-figure business because of it. Now, as a content creator, I look at this through a lens of content creation and output. But really, I think that anybody in any kind of profession could look at the tasks that they're performing, the projects they're taking on, just the things that you're doing throughout your day in the same way of depth, going all in on something that's really giving you some kind of a return of investment, versus volume, throwing as much stuff at the wall or pumping out as much content, as many tasks, as many to-dos as you possibly can with the intent of advancing in whatever it is you're trying to advance in. It's the whole balance of quality over quantity. We can talk about it with our possessions. We can talk about it with our to-do list and our schedules. You can really look at it in any way. I've even heard somebody talk about it in relation to your strengths and weaknesses, that you can weaken your strengths trying to strengthen your weaknesses, which I thought was something really worth stopping and thinking about. It's an interesting way to pose things because we always think, well, if I'm not great at X, Y, and Z, then that's where I need to focus my time and energy and really improve myself in that particular area. But in doing so and focusing so much of your energy on all of these things that you're not great at, you could be investing that time and energy into the things that you already are really great at and bolstering your strengths and making yourself like a superpower in those areas. So for me personally, as a content creator, releasing 1 piece of content per week, and I know that there are people out there who do way more than that, and I promise you most of those people are burning out or heading toward burnout. Releasing 1 new piece of content every week while also running a business in the background and raising a toddler and just like life things that we all have going on, it's very taxing. It's a lot of trying to force creativity. It's a lot of spending hours at a computer editing because I'm such a perfectionist, which we'll talk about here soon. It's a lot to pump out something that you are conceptualizing and creating from start to finish every single week. In short, I'm not going to do it anymore, at least not for the time being. I don't know if I'm going to find more free space later on next year, but for the time being, I feel really good and excited about decreasing my video output to once every 2 weeks instead of every week. And I was telling Matt last night, like, it's insane to me how much of a difference that feels like. We'll see what it's like in implementation, but it feels like such a huge difference to go from 4 videos a month down to 2 videos a month. I could record 2 videos in a day and be set for the month. And that sounds really spacious and freeing. That sounds much more conducive to my creativity and also allows me to find more depth in that content so that I don't feel like I'm just tossing things out because I need to toss something out. There were times where I was like, God, if I have to create another decluttering checklist, like, I'm going to bang my head against a wall. But again, regardless of what it is that you do with your time, if you're trying to pump out volume and you're focusing on volume, you're likely doing some things that you're not excited about either. You're likely creating or giving some sort of output of something that doesn't excite you or fulfill you and just is a particle of volume to add to the other particles of volume that you're pumping out constantly. One thing that Vanessa Lau also said in that video was, like, we think we're creative and so we need to create, but are we creative? Because when you flip through the feeds, you usually see a ton of different variations of the exact same thing. 10 habits for this, checklist items for such and such. So, whatever, it's not just in the decluttering space either. It's like all of the spaces. That's what happens when you start pumping out volume and kind of looking around, well, what is somebody else doing that seems to be working? Because you need fresh ideas, because you got to pump out more volume. And it just leads to a lot of repetitive information and repetitive content in everybody's feeds. I don't know exactly what that looks like for you, but for me, that looks like not creating volumes of content every week anymore, decreasing that to something that feels really good to me, which is twice a month. And the content that I do create, creating it for my existing audience, something that's going to build and strengthen my relationship with you guys, instead of just throwing things out there that are going to probably get a lot of clicks, but not necessarily build a foundation or a relationship with anybody. It's funny because when I first made the post here on YouTube about what had happened to my ankle and that I was going to be taking some downtime, one of you responded in the messages, "When the universe tells you to set the F down." And I just couldn't help but laugh. I thought it was so funny because it felt so true. The second thing that I wish I had internalized a little more is connection is better than perfection. One of the things that I really appreciate from Ali Abdaal, another YouTuber that I watch a lot, is that whenever he's talking about his own YouTube videos or success or metrics, he always says, I don't worry about the metrics like the views and all of that because these are things I can't control. What I can control is creating content that I feel is worthy, that I feel is making a difference, is being truthful, is doing something that I'm trying to do out in the world. All the other things you don't have control over. And that's so true in anything. I've always loved the serenity quote that you see in picture frames and stuff sometimes. I remember distinctly seeing it for the first time in the 8th grade when I was in my small town school library, hanging out with the librarian, and she had it framed in her office. The whole, give me the serenity to accept the things I can't change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And that really stuck with me. I tried to live my life according to that, and mostly I think the hardest part is accepting the things that you can't change and redirecting your focus to something that you can actually control. And I think that especially when it comes to creators, content creators, like any kind of creator, really, you can't control how anybody is going to respond to the thing that you're creating, whether it is art or, film or information, like none of that. You can't control the way that people respond to it. The only thing you can control is what you're putting out there, what you're choosing to put out there. But really, this applies to just so much in life that you take your pick. In the book Atomic Habits, James Clear refers to perfectionism as the biggest antidote to progress in anything. And he keeps saying, like, get your reps in. Just whatever it is that you're doing, just get your reps in, because taking the actions necessary to take are what's going to move the needle forward, not how perfectly you do it. There is nothing perfect about any of my videos. You could look at any one of them and pinpoint like a number of things. The music's too loud, or my hair is sticking out on the side, or like I say something wrong, I use the wrong word, or there's a wrong word on the screen. Like, things happen pretty much in every single video. But that doesn't keep me from spending like 10 to 12 hours editing every single one, trying to catch like all of the little errors and try to make things like as perfect as possible. And that's one thing that Matt regularly tells me is, you would have to work so much less if you would just not be such a perfectionist when it comes to your work. And I know I'm not alone because I hear other people say things like that all the time with their own space or their own life or their own work. But you know what? If I'm telling the truth, like all this downtime that I've had, I've watched a lot of content because I didn't have anything else to do. And the content that resonated with me the most, that I enjoyed watching and actually was engaged in beginning to end, was human content. It wasn't perfectly refined presentation. It was somebody having a conversation and sharing something real that I could connect to. And so that is my goal. And I really wish that had fully clicked much sooner. And so my new goal, instead of let's not have absolutely any errors in this video and kill myself trying, is to have some good, solid B+ editing work with flaws and humanity. I can already tell that this is going to be a longer video. I'm capping myself at 2 hours. I'm telling you right now on the editing process. We'll see how it turns out. Case in point, there is literally somebody ripping plastic and tape off of my window right now because we've had our siding redone. They're doing painting and doing all kinds of work. It's been like this for over a month. So I could like wait until the evening and then try to bring in extra lights and get everything just perfect for recording. Or I could just sit down in the chair with my broken ankle and hit record. That's the one I opted to do this time. Making the connection is more important and more valuable than any form of perfection. And in fact, perfection, like Vanessa Lau says, perfection equals alienation. People can't connect with perfection. So I'm taking this concept throughout my entire life, through not just work, but any kind of project that I try to do. That includes things like my health and fitness, which is something I've really been working on this year, like I've talked about many times. I'd joined a gym, I'd been going to classes. It was like a big, nice gym I was trying to get like tons of use out of. And then of course my ankle breaks and I can't even make it up to the top gym floor because you have to take so many stairs to get there. At this point, maybe I could, but I can't drive there anyway because this is my right ankle. And so it's a moot point. But the sponsor for this week's video kind of hit me up serendipitously. Like right before I broke my ankle, Trainwell had reached out to me. They're the ones who are sponsoring this week's video. And of course, I didn't know I was about to break my ankle, but as soon as that happened, I was like, okay, this is actually going to be a really good thing for me because the way that Trainwell works is they have an online physical trainer, or I guess it's through the app Physical Trainer, and you meet with them in video for at least the first appointment, and then you communicate with them via message, and they create your workout plan based on your desires, what you're trying to achieve, and what you have available to you, right? So there are people like myself who have a limitation of an ankle fracture, and at the time was mostly limited to the bed. So my entire care plan, my workout plan, is baked around me not being able to use my right ankle and me doing most of my exercises from sitting or from laying and using the things that I already have here at my home. So I already had a couple of like 5-pound dumbbells and I've been using those in most of my exercises. I already had one resistance band. So whatever it is that you have, they work around it. Isaiah, my personal trainer, has been awesome. He's very responsive. He's been very pleasant, knowledgeable. I saw on there that they only hire like 3% of the personal trainers who apply to work with them. Isaiah and I agreed on 5 days per week, and I've shown up for every single one of my sessions because it only takes 30 minutes. It's all right there on my phone. So whatever room I'm in, I know that I can just do it. And it's been probably the most effective way to actually get me to show up and do the work that I've found so far. So if you are interested in trying it out, I do have a link down in the description that will give you a 14-day free trial. And finally, investing over churning. Investing could be anything. Like it could be investing in your mind and your knowledge. That's something I read a book recently called The Millionaire Fast Lane because it was recommended by Ali Abdaal. And my favorite part of the whole book, the book was okay. It wasn't my favorite, but my favorite part of the whole book was the section on changing your oil. He called it Change Your Oil, which essentially was to continue your education, continue your knowledge, to constantly be growing and developing yourself mentally, especially if you're a business owner, but really for anybody. There's always some kind of knowledge to be developed. And what most people do is they go to college or they get whatever level of education they're going to get, and then they consider that graduation to be a completion of their lifetime of education. And really, things are changing. We have so much new information all the time. There are so many areas to grow in that learning new things, reading new books, taking new courses, like just building on yourself is like changing your oil for the car. The oil doesn't last forever. You need to constantly be updating and changing it and keeping it fresh. I just really liked that analogy. But I would have to say, like, even more than knowledge here, I'm really feeling the investing in your health through rest. Like making little rest deposits is like making deposits of investment for everything else in your life, for your creativity, for your personal growth and ability to take in new knowledge, just for your health. You know, I've heard so many people say, you're not wealthy if you're not healthy. Even the richest billionaires and millionaires in the world are not going to be happy. They're not going to be able to enjoy any of the money that they have if they don't have health, if they don't feel good in their own body, if they're not able to move around freely without all of their joints hurting and, you know, without running out of breath. You can't go anywhere. You can't do anything. You can't enjoy your life to the fullest if you don't have your health. That's one of the reasons that my health has been so important to me over the past year. Like since turning 40, I've really been hyper focused on just aging gracefully. And a big part of that is aging healthfully. Is that a word? Healthily? There's a lot that I haven't been able to do yet that I still intend to do. And I don't intend to wait until I'm fully retired at 65 or older. I think that that's not necessarily a good plan if there are some things that you really want to enjoy doing. But I do want to make sure that I'm able to get the full experience that I've always wanted out of traveling and exploring and hiking and just all of these different experiences that I want to take. And that really requires that I am intentional about investing into my rest bank, that I'm giving myself the rest that I need to be able to heal, to be able to not reach burnout and feel like a frazzled basket case all the time, you know, to feel good in my body and to be able to make better decisions about my body because I have the rested brain that's needed to make those decisions. Taking time off in any profession, but I found this to be particularly true of being a content creator. Like I wasn't always a content creator here on YouTube where I needed to pump out content regularly. I've had many other jobs and positions, and it always felt a little scary to just take time off. Like you wonder if you're going to get left behind, if you're not going to make enough money, if, you know, yada, yada, yada. But particularly with content creation, there is a great fear around taking time off for yourself, which is why so many content creators experience burnout. Because with content creation, you're like at the mercy of the mighty algorithms, and should they fall out of your favor because you took some time off and you're not pumping out content anymore, well, there's not much that you can do about that, right? But what I don't think a lot of people do, and what I definitely did not do, is experiment with taking time off and see what happens. Now, I've seen some content creators do that and they came back just fine, but I think that without experimenting, you don't really have the data that you need to make that informed decision. And it may be that taking time off gives you even better results for whatever it is that you're trying to create or to complete or to do in your day-to-day life. In fact, I'm pretty sure that it will. Don't assume that everything's going to go to crap if you take a week or even a month off, if that's something that you really need. Life is too short. Like your overall longevity and happiness in your life in general is so much more important than taking a week or a month or a sabbatical if that's what you need. So here is to a new chapter of doing less for me, hopefully for you, and hopefully you'll join me on this turned leaf journey. I'll chat with you next week. No, I won't, actually. I'll chat with you in 2 weeks.